Hi guys, so this is part 2 of my first Q&A. I just had so many questions that it just sort of added up and it just became a really long episode. So I figured I'd split it into 2 separate ones. If you haven't seen part 1, then head over here stay tuned for part 2 where I go through your guys' questions on all my different videos and whatnot. If you have any questions, comments, queries or corrections, let me know down in the comments below and I'll make this type of video maybe once a week, twice a month or something. Just answering your guys' questions and queries and just kind of making everyone a better diver. So stay tuned for part 2. On the video, how to change your dry suit silicone neck seal, Andre Andrade says, good video, do you know where I can get extra wrist and neck seals for the Aqualung Fusion? This is one of the good things about silicone seals especially, is as far as I know, touch wood, they're all universal. So most of them come from Cytec anyway. They're the ones that actually make them, and then the different brands will sort of take the kind of the ring system and then put them in their dry suits. So a lot of the time they're all Cytec anyway. So they're all universal. So you can take a waterproof neck seal and fit it onto an Aqualung dry suit. So yeah, they're very interchangeable silicone seals. And what I'm seeing nowadays is that a lot of different brands are sort of trying things different. So you can get like bottleneck ones, so they're a slightly different shape. You can get HD versions, they're just a heavier duty version, and I've actually seen a neoprene neck seal which goes into a silicone neck seal ring. I've only seen kind of pictures of it. They come in about 5 different sizes, but they're still kind of new. I haven't really seen them anywhere on the market. That would be a nice sort of alternative. Aqualung Fusion describes quite a few of their suits. Fusion just means that it's got kind of 2 sections. They're lovely suits. All the sort of the different ones, if they have silicone cuff seals and silicone neck seals, then anywhere that sells them should do fine. On the video, me all kitted up in my scuba gear, Clarky Sam asks, hi Mark, have you considered having the tail from your weight belt and harness pointing in opposite directions in order to know by feel which one you've got? No. I always keep them right hand release. It's never been an issue for me to not knowing which is which, because my weight belt is always closest to my body, and in an emergency I don't want it to go kind of the wrong way for someone else, because at that point you're kind of running on instinct and you're not really thinking too much. So I want to keep everything right hand release so it's really quick and easy to sort of get me out of my gear. And it's never been an issue. I've never sort of undone anything to be able to and unfortunately done the wrong thing, and I can't think of a reason why I would undo one and not the other, especially in the water. So no, it's not really an issue. I sort of almost inherently know, mainly because of my crotch strap. My crotch strap goes over my waistband for my BCD. It doesn't go onto my my weight belt. So no, I just keep it right hand release. I don't see the point in having them pointing in opposite directions. Leopold Bloom asks, on my recreational setup I have an extra long OXO hose, good, but I never saw the point in using the long hose for myself and switching to the short one when donating air. Why not use the short one as a main and offer the long one to your buddy without switching yourself? So we discussed this below, so they already know But yeah, the way that I dive with a long primary hose. This is about 2 meters long, which is what, 7 foot or something, and that one is my primary. So that's what I'm breathing from. I then have a shorter hose with my octo or my alternate, and that sits in a necklace around my neck. So the reason for primary donates is that if someone comes up to you and they say that they're out of air, you take your primary out because you know that this one is working. There's no fault with it whatsoever, because when you run out of air, it's usually just after you've exhaled. So you're going to exhale, you then inhale, and then nothing happens. So that way you're running on empty lungs, so you want some nice decent fresh air as soon as possible. So I pass my primary. As soon as I've seen that out of air, I take a really deep breath of air, so I've got plenty to keep me going. They can then breathe from that. I then switch to my alternate. If this one isn't working for whatever reason, in the time that's taken for them to sort of purge it and then take a breath of air, I found out that my alternate isn't working, but that's fine because I still have a breath of air. I've got plenty of time to sort it out, so I can then put that one back and then take my sort of primary, because we know this one is functioning, and then we can buddy breathe if we really have to. So that's why I sort of do primary donate, because we know it's functioning, and this one is a bit of a sort of I don't really know. So I mean, yeah, anything could have crawled inside of it. There could be a whole sort of heap of algae or seaweed or sand or a crab or whatever could have crawled into that. It might have sort of bashed against something. I don't know what's happened to it. So if I pass you and you run out of air, if I pass you an octo and you go to clear it and it doesn't clear, you then have to wait even longer for me to sort of pass you my my primary, the one that I'm breathing from. So yeah, I do a long hose primary donate. I just find it safer because you're kind of cutting out that is this one working, because you know it is, and that's it, quite simply. On the video, how to check your scuba weights, Aurelian Bloch says, nice video. I might have a question. Any advice on how to succeed in the bringing up a unconscious diver skill in full cold water gear? I've been failing this with my instructor many times now. So this is a skill that we teach in the sort of the rescue level, depending on which training agency you're working with. And so the scenario is going to be that you're searching for an unconscious, unresponsive diver under the water. We don't know whether they're still breathing. We don't know whether they're still conscious. So the main point of this skill is to get them to the surface. So you're going to approach the diver and approach them from the head side, and just kind of take note of kind of everything. Just kind of look at the scenario, because it might be that someone's just looking at something in particular, and the last thing that you want to do is start sort of manhandling someone who's just looking at a nudibranch. So yeah, try and sort of assess whether they are just looking at something. If not, then kind of give them a little tap just to sort of see if they're sort of conscious and responsive. If not, take note of their sort of air. Just try and find their SPG if you can. If it's too much of a hassle, don't worry. Your main priority is getting them to the surface. So then you basically want to get behind them, and with your right hand is going to be controlling their entire body. So how I do it is I reach underneath their right arm, and then with my right hand I'm holding their second stage in their mouth if it's in there. If it's not, then don't worry, just kind of hold their chin, and that way, because your arm is underneath them, you have full control of their body. If they're wearing sort of big bulky dry suit and whatnot, it can be a bit harder, but that's kind of my primary focus in sort of getting control of them. Your left hand is then sorting out your buoyancy, both yours and theirs. So typically I'd try and sort of inhale and sort of see how buoyant they are. If they're on the bottom, they're going to be negatively buoyant. So I'd grab hold of their inflator, and I'd usually kind of dump all of that gas, because you don't sort of need that. If they're in a dry suit, you want to check their dump valve on their dry suit as well. Just kind of open that as well, because you don't want to get a runaway ascent. If you start to sort of ascend, all of the gas inside of their dry suit is going to start to expand, and they're going to sort of become more and more buoyant and faster and faster and faster. You don't want that. You want to sort of make it nice and controlled. You're then sort of using, I tend to use sort of my own sort of buoyancy to control both of you as you ascend, and then sort of get them to the surface. As soon as you reach the surface, then you just establish positive buoyancy, drop their weights, drop your weights if you need to, inflate everything, call for help, and then the rescue exercise sort of continues on from there. But your primary focus is getting them to the surface, especially if the regulator is outside of their mouth. Then they have no chance of a good outcome under the water. So just send them up to the surface, and then the true paramedics can sort of take it from there. But yeah, so right hand controlling that, controlling the body, left hand controlling buoyancy, and just sort of ascend as best as you can, really. In a real world scenario, as long as you get them to the surface, that is your primary focus. How to change a regulator hose properly. Renee Mayer, very good video. Is the swivel pin also needed when using a transmitter on HP, high pressure? I connected my transmitter to my first stage no hose. So yeah, so if you have a transmitter that's attached directly onto the first stage, you don't need, it's firmly attached. So if it's attached directly onto the first stage, you don't need a swivel pin, because there will be an O-ring just kind of around this screw thread here. If you're attaching that transmitter onto a hose, then yes, you need a swivel pin. If you attach any sort of high pressure anything onto a high pressure hose, you need a swivel pin, because they do twist, and it needs that sealing surface. Yeah, it's as simple as that. Matt Vish asks, nice and simple, now my 8-year-old can change a hose. It's a good career choice. What about silicone grease on the low pressure O-rings and port sides? Not recommended. You can grease O-rings if you want. There are two different types of O-rings on regulators. You get static and dynamic. Static O-rings, which are the ones that go into the low pressure ports, they don't move, they're static. So they're fairly efficient at just sort of sealing without being greased. Dynamic ones are ones where you'll have some kind of shaft, sorry about this graphic, but it will go sort of through, and it has to seal all the way along that shaft. So yeah, because there's that sort of repetitive motion, usually every time you breathe, then if it's lubricated, it will create a sealing surface efficiently. If not, it might stick and it might sort of twist, and that's how you can degrade O-rings. You can grease them if you really want to. There's no reason not to, other than you don't want to sort of collect dust and whatnot on the O-rings. As soon as you put any kind of silicone grease on, any kind of dust and sort of grit sort of sticks to it really, really quickly. But as long as you're in a clean environment, then yeah, you can grease any O-ring sort of as you're attaching onto a hose. There's nothing wrong with that. On the video, to Paragon S mask quick look. Emma H89 asks, hi Mark, I've got the VX1, the Apex VX1 UV cut mask, but I've been wondering how I pre-treat it before diving. How do you pre-treat UV masks? Can you use the same technique as a clear lens? I don't want to scratch it. So yeah, that is your primary focus whenever you're preparing any mask. You don't want to use anything too abrasive. And yeah, you do want to be particularly careful with UV cuts, because they'll often have a special coating on the outside and sometimes even on the inside of a lens. And different manufacturers recommend different things. I think this is exactly what I sort of recommend you do, is literally ask the manufacturer, because I don't want to sort of promise, oh, this will work. I mean, Atomic Aquatics on theirs, they recommend or they did recommend to me. I just have to put that clause in, that it was like baby's toothpaste, because it's non-abrasive, it doesn't have any sort of nasties in it. So that's what they recommended to me sort of a few years ago. But yeah, I think I think Apex just recommended a sort of a non-abrasive lens treatment. So yeah, just sort of be super careful with because that coating lens, that lens coating is literally just that. It's just a coating on the outside, and if you use anything too abrasive, then yeah, you can sort of scratch it off. So it's best to sort of try just with a really soft towel, like a microfiber towel or something. Just try it on the inside, and chances are with like UV cut masks, you might not even need anything, because the main reason why most masks tend to fog up is that you have a silicone release agent. This is the best reason that I've kind of come across it. It used to be all sorts of different things, but sort of from the general consensus of what my research has come across is it's a lot of the time it's just the release agent from the silicone mold. It gets onto the glass lenses, and it just gets in the tiny sort of cracks and crevices. You can't see them, but it's glass, it's not completely flat. It gets inside of that, and that just means that water vapor can sort of condense onto it, and you need to get that out. So because they're UV special optical grade glass lenses, chances are they might not have these sort of impurities in them, because of that sort of coating. So chances are you might not need to anything. So what I do is I take the mask, you give it the whole kind of test, see if you can breathe into it, and if it fogs up, then you can use something very, very delicate. Yeah, ask the manufacturer and sort of see what they recommend, because then if something does go wrong, then you can say, you told me to do such and such. But try in a small corner first as well, and sort of be really, really gentle, and yeah, that's how it's worked. How I do mine, I use a toothpaste method. I put it on the inside of the lens. You kind of work it in a little bit, and then leave that to dry almost overnight, because that drying action almost sort of leaches stuff out of the glass lens, and then you kind of wash it, give it a test. If that doesn't work, do it again. I usually do it about sort of 3, maybe 4 times, and in touch wood, that works well for my masks. Top 5 regulators for 2020. Merlin87 asks thoughts on Poseidon Extreme Deep Mark III. I actually had a set of Extreme regulators years and years ago. They were lovely regulators. The Poseidon Extreme, they're pretty powerful because they're pneumatic, and I believe they're upstream regulators. When you first turn them on, they do a little to let you know, and then when you breathe on them, they can really sort of punch that air sort of into you, so they give you a really good sort of puff of air. Sometimes that can be a bit much, especially if you push that purge button. If you push the purge button, you'll almost push the regulator straight out of your mouth. But yeah, they're side exhaust, so they're ambidextrous, really easy for donating. You don't have to worry about some 90-degree hoses. My one, it was the sort of the black with the grey on the front. This is before they came out with all the different funky colours a few years back. Yeah, they're funky regulators. Touch wood, they did me fine. They're great regulators. I think they used to come up with a whole bunch of different ones though. I think you had the standard, and then you had the deep, and then you had the Octo, and then the pure oxygen and whatnot. But yeah, I just had like the standard grey one, and they're good regulators. I definitely like them. On the video, how to change silicone cuff seals, Emma H89 asks on the other page. What do you think of neoprene wrist and neck seals? I've heard good things about them being easy to get on, particularly about the neck seal. With longer hair, apparently the neoprene doesn't rip your hair out, unlike the latex silicone type seals. Your videos are really helping me think about dry suit options for my first dry suit, so thank you, you're welcome. Yeah, I do like neoprene sort of seals. My very first dry suit, it was a Oceanic something, it was blue, and that had neoprene seals on it. I don't think from new, I think the previous owner, it was second hand, bless it, had put them on, and yeah, they're really nice. I mean, the very first dry suit that I'd ever worn was it had latex seals. That was just a school suit, and yeah, they were pretty snug. Most latex seals, they're really tight when they're brand new. They need to be stretched at first. And actually, when I was in Norway once, they gave me a rental suit, and it was a brand new suit, and they hadn't stretched it, and this thing almost choked me out. That was horrible. But neoprene seals, I do really like. The cuff seals are fine as long as you don't have a I can't even think what you'd call it, almost a channel. So some people down on their forearm, at certain points, they get almost like a recess between like the tendons and ligaments, and neoprene seals aren't the best at sort of sealing that gap. So just kind of look at your arm and make sure that you don't have a kind of a recess or a channel where water might be able to seep up through. They're fine. On the outside it will just be standard neoprene. On the inside it will be a kind of a glide skin neoprene, which is kind of almost melted neoprene, so it's very smooth. It's also very fragile, so be very careful with it. There was a run of a brand of dry suit, I'm not going to say which had a lot of problems with the cuff seals, because you'd put the suit on, you try it on, and then you try and pull it to either sort of take it off or just to readjust that cuff seal, and it would tear. There'd be a very sort of telltale crescent shape pull, because if you pull just with like a simple pinch of one finger, it's very easy to sort of rip and tear it. So be careful with the cuff seals. Be very gentle with them. Use like a talc, an unscented talcum powder, or you can get some Neoslicks, which are sort of water-based lubricants, and they're very effective. So so that you're not going to sort of rip and tear it. The neck seals, they're weird when they first start. They're quite hard to trust, because it should be the glide skin on the outside, so that you kind of curl them over, so the sealing surface is now on the inside, and then that's it, so it's kind of doubled over. They are nice and soft, because that sealing surface is on the outside. It's really easy to get in and out of. If you do have long hair, Santi actually make like a hair sock. It's almost like a snood. A snood, you basically put this tube over your head, and then it sort of goes on really quick and easy, and then you take the snood off. So that's my kind of tip. I use a Fourth Element one. It's not really what it's made for, and I don't think they make them anymore. But yeah, my hair gets stuck in the silicone neck seals, and yeah, that can be a real sort of awkwardness, especially trying to get out. So yeah, just if you can get a snood, something breathable, you can put that over your face, and then you can get out of that dry suit neck seal. But yeah, neoprene ones are actually quite nice. They're very soft against your skin. A lot of people, I used to get like a latex love bite, just kind of there on your neck, and it's just where I don't think I have a latex allergy, but for whatever reason, if I've been diving like 2 days in a row with a latex neck seal, it just starts to irritate, and I get a little bit of a rash. It goes away in a day or so, but it can be sort of annoying. Silicone, touch wood, I've kind of never had an issue with, but neoprene I didn't have an issue with neither. The main thing is just make sure that, again, yeah, you don't rip that sort of section, but even if you do, you can use like Aquashore, or Black Witch or something, some kind of neoprene adhesive, and just kind of inject a little bit, a teeny tiny little bit into that tear, and that seals it. So it's not a death nail for the suit. You can just sort of patch that up. But yeah, I'm fine with neoprene neck seals and cuff seals. I just like silicone because they're really quick to change. If you rip something, you can change it instantly. Whereas with neoprene, you have to wait weeks. Or days if you're doing it yourself for the glue to set and everything. But yeah, I think it was waterproof. They made a neoprene seal, like quick change, that can go into a silicone neck seal. So I'll see if I can sort of put a link down below for that. Thank you very much for watching this video. On my channel, I upload videos every single week all about how to become a better scuba diver. Now, I've been working in and around the diving industry for a very long time now, and I have a lot of advice that I can help you out with. So if you need any help or advice with anything to do with scuba diving, just let me know in the comments below and subscribe to my channel, because I'll probably make a video all about it to help you out. So you can click here to check out one of my latest how-to videos to upgrade your equipment and your diving, and click here to check out one of my scuba diving advice videos. Thank you for watching, and of course, safe diving.